AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
This is ODAT Chat, your instant connection to recovery and community, one day at a time. This podcast may contain strong language, sexual content, and spiritual truth. Listener discretion is advised.
Today's episode is brought to you by Audible.com. This is my most favorite app. I have about 64 book titles on my phone. I don't listen to the radio that much anymore. I listen to Audible books when I'm driving or going to the grocery store or shopping at the mall or whatever, or laundry, who knows. So I just am obsessed with, obviously, with this app. There are so many amazing authors out there, some who have been on the show. And I think the one I'm listening to right now is called Playing Big by Tara Moore. She's amazing. So if you want to try it out, you can actually get your first one free by going to odatchat.com. On the right, there's the Audible button. If you sign up for a membership, you get your first book free. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, and shoot me a message on Facebook. Let me know what you're listening to, and maybe we can talk about it on the podcast. Welcome to ODAT Chat. My name is Arlena, and I'll be your host. In case you're wondering what the heck ODAT stands for, it stands for One Day at a Time. The purpose of the podcast is to uncover root causes and conditions of addiction and to reveal the ideas and solutions that lead to healing and long-term recovery. I actually started the podcast out as a resentment, to be honest. I heard Joe Rogan and his guest discuss a mutual friend's alcoholism, and their ideas about the disease were so uninformed, it made me a little crazy. This is really my attempt at providing a platform for us to tell our side of the story and maybe educate the ignorant. Sorry, Joe. So there you have it. And in an effort to understand all paths to recovery, I invited my friend Michael Mason to the show. Michael shares how he was able to overcome his addiction to marijuana through a program called Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian-based program. I had heard of it, but really had no idea how their process worked, so I invited Michael onto the show to talk about how it compares to traditional 12-step programs and, his experience with that. So Michael also shared the details of what life was like growing up with a father who sounded extremely strict and, neglectful, abusive, really, and how it affected Michael's self-esteem and his siblings growing up. And listen, I'm just grateful to him for being so open and for being willing to share his story and educating me and my listeners about Celebrate Recovery. So with that, please enjoy this episode with Michael. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me on the ODAT Chat podcast.
Thank you for having me, Arlena. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Listen, you have a voice for radio. Oh my goodness.
I've never heard that before. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll have
hear it all the
look
time.
into doing something about that.
Yeah. So, what's great is, we met, I was a host of a sales podcast, and it's still on iTunes, but that's how you and I met, was through our mutual love for podcasting. You also have a podcast on sales.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on the search for what I like to call elite sales professionals, and in my search, I found you, and we turned out to have an awesome interview, and you were a great guest on my show. And the rest is kind of history. We've kept in contact. It's been over a year since we did that interview. And it's been awesome keeping in contact with you. I mean, you and I, we've shared things that have been going on as far as our careers. And we've both had some ups and downs in our careers over the past year, successes and defeats. And you've been a huge encouragement and support to me. And you let me kind of vent. And you've done the same with me as well. And I think we're both better for it. So it's a great relationship that we have with one another, and because of that, I'm honored and consider myself very privileged to be on this podcast about recovery.
Yeah, listen, and it's a topic that's near and dear to both our hearts. And it was so interesting the way it even came out, right? Because we met in a professional setting, and I don't typically discuss recovery in a professional setting unless I become friends with someone, and it was just interesting how the conversation, how it came up casually in conversation that I was in recovery and that you were also in recovery. And that's why I asked you to be a guest, because you do recovery a little bit different than I do. I want to learn. So you got sober through Celebrate Recovery, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, Celebrate Recovery is the organization that I not only go to as a member, but also am a facilitator of a small group there as well. And yeah, it's certainly changed my life, and it's helped me to overcome a number of what in Celebrate Recovery we like to call hurts, habits, and hangups.
Hurts, habits, and hangups. Oh, I like that. Okay.
The issues of life, as we call them.
Issues of life. Yeah, because we're all recovering from something, I think. But I'm definitely I have lots of questions for you about Celebrate Recovery and how all that works. So we'll get to that. But I typically like to start the podcast out with a little bit about your background. Family of origin stuff is always fascinating to me, because I feel like it's in our early childhoods or maybe even later on that things happen, and sometimes it's traumatic. A lot of times there's like a lot of trauma that we don't know how to cope with, and then enter drugs and alcohol or a myriad of other things. But so I thought we would do is sort of start at the beginning, and maybe you can just tell me a little bit about what your family of origin was like.
Sure, absolutely. I love to share that with you. So I'm the oldest of 4 boys, no girls.
4 boys? I didn't know.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And we're all pretty close in age. So I have one brother that's 1 year and 1 month younger than me. The third brother is, I think, about 3 years younger than me. And then the youngest of us is 5 years younger than I am. So we're all pretty close in age. And all 4 of us grew up with the same mom and the same dad, all in the same house. Wow. And I'm an 80s baby. So I was born in 82. And so we spent, I know, right? We spent our youth partially in San Jose, California. That's where me and my brother that's 1 year younger than me were both born. And actually the third brother was born in San Jose, California as well, too. So we spent probably the first third of our youth in San Jose with family on my mother's side. And then we moved to Dayton, Ohio, to be close to my grandparents, my father's mother and father. And we spent a portion of our youth there as well. And then we moved to Phoenix, Arizona around junior high school. And we've been in Phoenix, Arizona ever since. My youth, it was fun, but it was also very challenging and difficult. And you made a great point, Arlena, about how the traumatic events that happen when you're young, they seem to spring up in your adulthood, and the issues of life that you're struggling with as an adult can probably be traced back to things that happened in your youth. And I say that to set up the conversation about my relationship with my father. So even though my parents, we all had the same mom, same dad, we all lived in the same house, my father, he was verbally abusive and emotionally detached. I didn't know that term as a child or a youth, but now as an adult and having gone through some recovery and reflecting back, I can identify these things. And then my mother, she was an amazing mom, but she was a nurse, so she was working and going to school at the same time. So mom was not at home very often. And so, that was difficult as well. But the biggest thing for me, I think, just speaking about myself and my youth, is I wanted love and affection and attention from my father that I didn't get. I was into sports, for example. I was a big athlete as a youth, and if you played any sports, or even if you did any activity, the most important people that you wanted to see you perform were your mother and your father. And sure. My mom, she couldn't make it most of the time because she was working or she was in school. And my dad, he just voluntarily chose not to attend. And so it was very heartbreaking to, I can remember my senior year in high school, the last home game of the year it was like the game where the parents would come to the game, and and they'd be celebrated, and my parents weren't there, and that was emotionally scarring. I had colleges recruiting me all over the place, and there'd be basketball tournaments that I'd need to be at so that they could see me, and my dad, he wouldn't take me. He'd make me stay home. So there were just all these.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating, and it didn't just affect me; it affected my brothers as well. But kind of keeping the conversation on myself, being the oldest, I spoke out the most about the frustration and the treatment, and we had lots of verbal arguments. At one point in time, he kicked me out, and I stayed with my grandparents because he bugged me, just to say the least. Right? I couldn't understand why he treated us the way that he did, with the verbal abuse and just the emotional detachment. And it was just little things he would do and I'm in high school and I've got a 8 o'clock bedtime, or
In high school?
yeah, and I get it. He was in the military. Maybe that has something to do with it. His father was in the military. I could imagine that might have some effect on it. But little things like that, or me and my brothers, we couldn't use the phone, past like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He would literally turn the house phone off, and not to toot my own horn, but absolutely. And, me and my brothers, we're tall, we're handsome young guys. We were popular. And so you could imagine the phone ringing, and, we want to socialize with friends and such. And, we weren't able to do that. We weren't able to have friends over at the house.
No friends at the
growing
house.
up. No friends, not even cousins could come over. It was just, it was why I call him the warden. That's how we kind of put it. It felt like, a weird form of slavery growing up, and
Prison.
that's probably a better way to describe it. It did feel like prison, and it was really challenging. And the biggest and most traumatic event that I think happened in my youth, and this was, I believe it was my first year of college. Him and my mom, they were together, but they weren't together. Like, they lived under the same roof. But again, there was no emotional connection there. And I just had this sensitivity about things. And I just had this feeling something was about to happen between the two of them. I didn't know what, couldn't really put my finger on it, but something just didn't feel like it was right. And I just had a feeling something was going to pop. And we had a family reunion on my mother's side of the family, and we all went to a park where we held the family reunion at. But he didn't go. Which wasn't uncommon. I mean, even my family on my mom's side, I mean, they really despised him because they knew the way that he treated us.
Oh,
and
sad.
yeah, I know, right? But to top it off, we come home from the family reunion, and half the furniture in the house is gone. He's gone. All his stuff is gone. He just packed his things and left, and didn't say goodbye or anything like that. He just,
oh my God, where did he
just
go?
disappeared. I'm not exactly sure. He didn't go far. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay.
He didn't go very far. He stayed in Arizona, and it was probably the most anger and frustration, bitterness, rage I've probably felt in my life. And I am one of the most cool, calm, and collected individuals you'll probably ever meet. Mm-hmm. And, that move it brought out so much just disgust, for my father. And for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I didn't see him or hear from him, but I carried, all of this, baggage from my entire life experience with him, especially that event. And it's interesting. We were having a family, I think it was a Thanksgiving dinner at one of my aunt and uncle's house one year. And in walks through the door my dad.
No way.
And if you could have saw the look on my face, and if you took my temperature, I mean, my blood was boiling. I mean, it was one of those situations like, how dare you show your face?
Just waltz back in like nothing happened.
Right, exactly. And it was total shock. And it was so bad. I left. I left the dinner because I could not be in the same room as him. It was
Nobody
because
even warned you he was coming?
no one that I know of knew he was coming. It was one of those
He just showed
surprise.
up?
Yeah. And
Wow,
like
that's
everything was
bold.
cool. Like, I know, right? I
That's so
know. And
ballsy.
I guess I'm fortunate that, I've I've got some family that know how to keep their calm as well too. And so, nothing, violent broke out. And I mean, it's probably a good idea that I left.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it. And, to make matters worse, this would happen like often. He would just pop up at, family events on my mom's side, and I would leave every time for a good 2 years. If he showed up, that was my cue to leave the building.
Wow.
And because I couldn't stand to see him. I couldn't stand to, be in his presence. And I just, again, had a lot of pent up hate and anger and frustration towards him, and unforgiveness, for everything that he had said, everything he did, the things he didn't do that I thought he should have as a father. As a result of all of that, it caused me to have some serious issues as an adult. And
Yeah.
things like people pleasing, codependency, fear of rejection, fear of failure. These were all things that began to form within me as a result of the broken relationship I had with my father, the expectations I had of him that weren't met, and the disappointment that came from that, and then all of the, him abandoning, my mom, me and my brothers. It was pretty traumatic. And not to mention, when he left, my mom couldn't take care of the mortgage by herself, and
Oh,
we're
shoot.
all in school. And so
Well,
the
this
house went
happened when
into
you were like in
foreclosure.
high school?
I had just graduated high school. I
When
think, in
he
my first
left?
year of college. Yeah,
Oh, your first year of college.
yeah, it was my first year of college. Yeah, he left, and so the house went into foreclosure.
Oh my
We
God.
lost the house.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah,
awful.
it was pretty devastating. It was. But you know what? As bad as that is, Arlena, the story actually, it works out okay. You have no idea. And I can thank, being part of a recovery group for that, actually. So I don't know. You want me to stop there and give you a second to ask some
Sure.
questions, or
Yeah,
keep
I
going?
am super curious about, I'm just curious about your dad. You said he was former military. What branch of the military was he from?
He was in the Navy, and
He was in the
his
Navy.
father, my grandfather, was in the Navy as well. But it's interesting, though, my grandfather, his father, he was an amazing grandfather. I almost model myself after him. He was
Oh,
a
okay.
man of integrity. He was a family man. He was a role model for me. He gave me great advice. I'm fortunate that both grandfathers on both sides of my family were really amazing men, and they helped me to develop my character. And I would even say, as a youth, that my grandfathers were more of fathers to me than my own father was, because of the examples that they set. So
Was your father a drinker at all?
he drank and he smoked marijuana as well.
Okay, so would you say your father was probably an alcoholic?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah. Do you know what happened to your dad that caused, well, you may or may not know, because it doesn't sound like he shared too much with you. So do you have any clues as to what shut him down so hard?
He didn't, that is one of the interesting things about my father, is that even though we lived under the same roof as one another, for, I don't know, 18 years of my life, his past is quite the
It's a
mystery for me.
mystery.
I don't know a whole lot about, him as a person. I've had conversations with some aunts and uncles regarding him, and
His siblings?
yeah, and they had some similar things to say about him, that as a teenager and when he was in college, he was, I don't know, he was just
Just
different.
always this way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So, your mom being the nurse and being absent, did you ever hold her responsible for the way you and your brothers were being treated? Like, were you upset? Did you ever like get mad at her for not either sticking up for you or leaving or trying to bridge that gap between
No,
you and the boys and and your dad?
No, I never did. My mom, I saw how hard she worked. And, when she wasn't working, she did everything she could to take care of us.
Yeah.
She did. She did a great job. I never held her responsible for the actions of my father or the circumstances that we were dealing with, because she
Absolutely,
was
yeah.
going through it as well, too. I would see them argue and fight, regularly. She knew the way that he treated us and she stuck up for us. She did not support his behavior in any capacity. And so I felt like, her and my brothers, we were all on the same team going through this, this
Yeah.
traumatic experience
You
together.
never questioned her staying or...
Oh, absolutely. I remember very clearly having a conversation with Mom, and I'm like
Yeah.
a junior or senior in high school. I'm like, Mom, like,
Yeah.
what are you doing with this guy? Like, why? Like, it's not where I remember having that, that heart to heart with my mom, and she didn't say anything that I can recall. But I certainly remember having that conversation with her, like, he's not good
and
for
wanting
us.
better for your mom. That must have been a
So
hard conversation for you to have with her.
it was, yeah, it was definitely tough. We had a really good rapport, me and my mom, and it's funny. And now as adults, we have so much in common. She's a very laid back and relaxed, and kind of a Hakuna Matata, no worries kind of a person. Just like, the issues of life just kind of roll off her back, and she just kind of rolls with it. And
Yeah.
she's very even keeled, not too high, too low. And I think that I got that from
Yeah,
her.
and it
'Cause
seems
I'm
to
a lot
me
like
like
that
when there
too.
are people with really strong personalities, it's almost like their equal opposite has to be present. You know what I mean? It's like it almost sounds like she was your father's equal opposite.
Yes, they were
Yeah.
absolutely yin and
Right?
yang,
Because
without
nature is
question.
always seeking balance, right? And it's like you can't have two talkers. Like you don't see two talkers married to each other. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I know. It's funny. I make that joke about me and my wife because we're total opposites. We're total yin and yang. I like to lounge on the couch or, in the backyard on a chair and read a book and just kind of be a homebody. And she's the total opposite. She likes to be out, group of friends, having a good time, being very social. And I'm more of I'm the introvert. She's the extrovert. And it's
But you
the total
balance each
opposites.
other
But
out, right? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And to your point, if we both were like me, we'd be hermits, right? We'd never go out. We wouldn't do anything. And then if we both were like her, we might be somewhere in a ditch because we're having so much fun.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and so speaking of having fun, so what is your drug of choice? Did you drink as well as doing other things, or walk me through that a little bit?
So it was marijuana was my drug of choice. And the way that I guess marijuana and I became acquainted with one another, I think is kind of interesting. I was kind of sheltered from it to some degree, but I was curious at the same time. So I didn't try it until I moved out of the house when my dad left. But interestingly, every once in a while, I'd like go to the garage to like put some clothes in the washer or grab my basketball out of the garage, and there'd be an
Oh my
interesting
God.
odor coming from the my dad's van in the garage, right?
Wow.
He had a van in the garage. Yes, he did. Later on, I came to understand what that was, but as a youth, I didn't know what it was. When I moved out, I had a roommate that I went to high school with, and we actually worked at the same job. It was a sales
God,
call
that's
center,
hilarious.
coincidentally.
So you've been a sales guy
And,
a long time.
yeah, we moved forever. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a very, very long time. A lot of our coworkers, became friends with us, and we lived 5 minutes from the call center that we worked at. And so after work, they would all come over to our apartment and hang out. And at the time, I didn't smoke, but all of them did. And so ultimately,
Yeah.
just being in the environment of it made me curious, right? I was the odd man out for a while. They respected it. They would ask.
You mean ask meaning
but they
if
wouldn't,
they could smoke in your house,
pressure me in any
or
way.
they would ask you if you wanted to partake?
Yeah, they'd ask if I wanted to partake, and for a while I was like, "No, I'm good. It's not my thing." But again, that exposure to it, it's almost like if there's, if you have a food addiction, if there's food in the
Eventually.
house, like it's gonna kind of, yeah, calling you. And eventually I found myself like,
Sure.
wanting to fit in. And I think that's what a lot of it had to do with, is wanting to feel part of a group. And it's that whole fear of rejection thing that, I now know that, I've struggled with for a while. And so ultimately I tried it, and it eventually became a regular daily habit where, my roommate and our friends, they smoked. And so I'd partake
Yeah,
with
I
them as
smoked
well.
non-addictive marijuana for
And
many
that's kinda
years.
how it started.
Yeah. It's funny how they say that. It couldn't be further from the truth.
I know, right? Yeah, I hear arguments about it's not addictive.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
mean,
like,
it's not
okay.
addictive in the sense that like heroin is addictive. Like when it's absent, like, we don't get you don't get drug sick, I think is what they call it, right? But you
Right.
still, like,
Yeah.
when I had to go without, super irritable and just jonesing for it, just like,
Right.
and the lengths I would go to go get it. I mean, I'm sure listen, and it wasn't legal. It's still not legal in Arizona, but I mean, can you talk to
No.
me about some of the lengths that you would go to make sure that you had it?
Yeah, I mean, me and my roommate, I mean, we would drive long distances to get some. I mean, we'd phone a friend that knows a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy. I mean, we'd find neighbors in the apartment complex that, smoked, and we'd go over there, and it was their house,
Hang out with people
and
you don't
smoke. I mean, it
like.
was pretty crazy.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I can remember being in some shady places with some, questionable
you're so
individuals.
nice. Questionable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to hang out with some downright dirtbags just to make sure. Like, I mean, the lengths I would go
Yeah.
to. I remember living in an apartment complex, and our neighbors. Yeah, I mean, they talk in the books about seeking lower companionship, and it's like those lower companionships, they had something over your head too. And I remember just these people making me hang
Absolutely.
out with. There was like a married couple, and they made me hang out with them forever because they didn't want the other neighbors to think that they were selling weed. Everybody knew. Oh, but they'd make me hang out with
Yeah.
them. Oh, it's terrible.
It's
Yeah.
pretty obvious. Yeah. I mean, and it got so bad. You bring up a memory,
Oh,
and
let's
I'm
hear
so
it. This is
embarrassed
what I
of
want to
it too.
hear.
So me and my roommate, we moved out of our apartment at one point, and my grandmother, she had a house, and she was renting it out. She had moved out of it. It was just a rental property of hers. And so me and my roommate, we moved in, and we would smoke, and I mean, the house, I mean, it was pretty much ours, and we'd smoke and do pretty much whatever we wanted to do. And mind you, we're early 20s. And one day, me and my roommate, we're getting high, we're getting smoked out.
Oh no, Grandma.
And guess who knocks on the door? Grandma.
No.
Just to check on the house, and we are both freaking out. The house smells just absolutely terrible. We're blown out of our minds, and Grandma's ringing the doorbell and wants to come in, and we had to hide everything, and try to get somewhat presentable, but there really was no presentable. My roommate, on the other hand, it was fine with him. He could just go in his room and close the
You had to
door and not
face
come
Grandma.
out. I had to actually address my grandma. I had to face Grandma. And I tried to be as normal as
No
I
cigar.
possibly could. And not at all. My grandmother, she's an amazing woman. And I think she knew,
Oh, she didn't call you
but
out
she
on
didn't
it?
say anything. She didn't call me out on it. Yeah, my grandma. She's so nice. She's one of the nicest ladies I've ever met. She is, but I just, in the back of my mind, she wasn't born yesterday. I think she knows what was going on, but I think it was so much shock. And that's the other thing too. Not only am I the oldest son, I'm also the oldest grandchild as well. So, she looks pretty highly on me, and I think it was more shock than it was anything.
Right.
She
You were
didn't
the
know what
good
to
kid.
say.
Did she take you to? Did you guys grow up in
So-
the church?
We did, yeah. Actually, I went to church with her. Me and my brothers went to church with her as kids. My mom and dad, they grew up in the church. However, when they became adults
didn't
and they
go.
had the choice whether to go or not, they didn't go. However, every Sunday morning they
Oh,
did
isn't
make
that
sure we
funny?
went with our grandparents. So
I hear that a lot.
Yeah,
The irony,
the
yeah.
irony,
Oh, that's
right?
interesting. No, that's humiliating when grandma,
Yeah,
when you're baked out of your mind and grandma shows up. Lord have mercy.
I
That's
know.
bad.
It's so embarrassing. And you know what? It's she never brought
Bless
it
her
up though.
heart.
It's been, I don't know, 15 years if not more, and she never brought it up. And
Yeah,
I'm
that's so
thankful
good.
for that though.
So it doesn't sound like any. So what happened that made you decide that you needed to stop doing that? Like, how did it become a problem for you?
Uh, Panic attacks, anxiety attacks. Yeah, yeah, that's and that did it in for me. And I don't know if it was my conscience or my inner being, speaking to me, telling me, look, this is not for you. But I can remember a couple incidents where I had major panic attacks. This feeling of fear came over me that I was going to be
Oh
stuck
my God.
high forever.
So you're saying that's a bad
And
thing?
that was not
So-
for me it was.
right.
So hey, call me crazy, but for me
Okay.
that was scary. I after a while I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to go back
Right.
to my normal state. This is getting a little bit too weird. I'm feeling and seeing things a
Oh,
little bit too
yeah.
differently. And so, I mean, there's one incident in particular. There's a couple I can think of actually. One was me and my roommate when we lived in the apartment complex. We went to go smoke next door with our neighbor. He was our age, and he was a sketchy character. I mean, I wouldn't go hang out with him, on a regular daily basis. But we were out of
You
weed, and
hang
so
out.
he had weed, and so we went over to his house. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's like
Right.
you find a way to get your fix, and so, we smoked with him and went back to our apartment, and my roommate went in his room to go play video games or something. I went in my room. I don't know what was in whatever we smoked from him, but it just made me completely paranoid, and the anxiety and this sense of I'm not gonna ever come down. I'm gonna be stuck high like
Right.
this, and it just freaked me out. And I was just like, I never want to feel like that again. Needless to say, I did smoke again after that bad trip. Uh, but another situation was, I smoked and I felt that anxiety again. And this was actually another Thanksgiving. It was like Thanksgiving Day, and we were going over to my then fiance, now wife's parents' house for Thanksgiving, and I was baked out of my mind, and I just felt like her dad could tell I was
He's
just
gonna kill
high out of
you.
my mind, and yeah, right. Exactly. My future father-in-law, and I'm baked out of my mind at his house for Thanksgiving, and it was embarrassing, and it was kind of disappointing. Like he didn't say anything to me, but I felt a sense of embarrassment and
Right.
disappointment. Like I'm better than this, and I shouldn't be doing this. And it's situations like that. I kept having these reoccurring anxiety attacks and freakouts whenever I would smoke, and that's what ultimately that was one of the things. I won't say the only thing, but that was one of the things that made it very clear to me that this is not for me, because I got to a point
Yeah.
where I didn't enjoy being high. I
Right.
was not having a good time like
A
everybody else was
horrible
having. I was
time.
having a horrible time, and I mean, part of me would like to believe that that's God, or my inner man rejecting that, just because it's the path that I'm on, and the things that I do now, the life that I live, the people that are in my life, and the people's lives that I intend to touch. I can't be under those types of influences and have the impact and the calling that I believe that I have, and I think
Oh,
that has something
absolutely.
to do with
Yeah.
it as well too.
And did you find though that you were having difficulty stopping, even though it was causing you a lot of problems? Is that why you turned to Celebrate Recovery?
Ye- Yes, it was a problem. I think it was
Hmm.
because of the environment I was in. This is this is like 2005 to 2010-ish. I was the people that I spent my time with, like my friends, my coworkers, my roommate, like the people I spent the most time with, they all smoke. So it was always around me. And that made it hard not to, participate in it. I did not have the same kind of willpower in my early 20s as I
Right.
have now in my mid 30s. I was not, I wasn't as comfortable as I am now with who I am and, what's important to me. I didn't have core values and principles in my early 20s. I just wanted to fit in with I wanted to be part of something. I didn't want to be alone. You know what I mean? And so that led me to be very easily, persuaded into, doing things that I really didn't want to do, but I did to be, part of the, part of the crew, part of the group. And
that's all part of that.
Not be rejected.
People-pleasing mentality, that codependency.
Yeah, codependency and, wanting people to like me. So that was that. Now, Celebrate Recovery, it was interesting how it came about. Me and my fiance at the time, now wife, we started going to church. Like, I grew up in the church, but after I moved out, I didn't have anybody that made me go to church. And so for several years, I didn't go at all. But, after one of those major like anxiety, trips and freakouts, a friend of mine invited me and her to church, and it was just out of the blue. It was like, it's my birthday today, and the only thing I want for my birthday is for my friends to go to church with me. And I hadn't been in years. Me and her had never been together, but it just felt like the timing was like perfect. Like we didn't even think of it. We were like, absolutely, yes, we'll be there. And so we went to this church, had never been to it before. Her and I had never been to church together.
Already?
She actually grew up. No, we were not married. We had been boyfriend and girlfriend since high school. So I did marry my high school sweetheart.
Oh my God, that's
adorable. I married my high school sweetheart, and we weren't married yet. We were together as boyfriend and girlfriend for 10 years before we actually got married. I think it was at least 10 years. We got together in 2008. We were married in 2007. So almost 10 years together before we got married. But anyway, we went to this church, and we had never felt so much love and compassion from total strangers like this ever. It was just the most comforting and amazing feeling. It was just, it was unbelievable. These total strangers, they greeted us, they welcomed us as if we were family. And it felt amazing. It was
felt like you were
transformational.
Home.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the message, I can't exactly remember the specifics of the message, but the message just lined up with where I was with my life and, wanting to make some changes and some transitions and, feeling like my life had way more purpose than I was actually giving myself credit for and allowing in my life. And I really resonated with that message. And so after that, we never went back to that particular church with my friend, but we immediately started going to church with my grandmother, the one that caught me, super high in her house that I was renting out. And it was the same church that she took me and my brothers and my cousins and my whole family to when we were little kids.
Oh, wow.
And so we started going, and the first Sunday we were there, it was like something out of a movie. The pastor, he started his message off right where the other pastor ended his message at. They just like went together, and we both looked at each other like, this is weird. Like, what's going on? This can't really be happening. Like, we both were like, did they have a conversation with one another?
Did they know about us?
Us, right. And it just felt like he was talking directly to me.
Isn't that amazing?
And it was transformational. Through that, we started going to this church. It's called First New Life. I started, connecting with the youth, the young adults there, the teenagers, the junior high school kids, the high school kids. They were fascinated by me because I'm super tall and I played basketball and
how tall are you?
I wore cool shoes. I'm 6'4", which is not that tall, but
tall.
It's tall in the sense of, average, height for guys, but I'm a pretty tall guy and played basketball. And so they were fascinated by that. I wore cool shoes. I wore like Jordan. So things that like young, teenagers were interested in. And so they gravitated to me, and it was interesting. High school was really interesting. I had a really interesting experience in high school. I didn't smoke during high school because I was an athlete. I played basketball. So
that kept you no drinking in high school even?
Did. No drinking, no drugs, I didn't party obviously because I couldn't go out of the house, right? I didn't get invited to any parties, or if I did, I didn't know about them because my dad had the phone off the hook.
Right. He was so strict. So he kept you out of trouble.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I guess that's
If
one
there's a
thing I
silver
can take away from
lining
that
out of that
experience. Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah, that's one silver lining. Another silver lining, just to, since we're talking about that, is that experience with him. It has, I believe, it's made me into the father that I am today.
Absolutely.
I'm a better father because of the experience that I went through. I know what I went through, and I know I wouldn't want to put any child through
Yeah.
that kind of
I
experience.
bet
And
you're a
so,
great
for me,
dad.
I would like to believe my two kids would say
How
so.
old are your
Yeah. So.
children?
My son just turned
Oh,
6
cute.
last month. Yeah, and then my daughter, she's 9, and she'll be 10 next month.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. But yeah, there's a silver lining, I guess,
Yeah.
to our relationship, and there's more to actually our relationship, and I'm gonna get to that as well. It does have a happy ending, and Celebrate Recovery does have a lot to do with that. But ultimately, I got asked by the church if I'd be interested in working with young adults. It was perfect because, again, going back to high school, even as an adult, I never forgot what it was like being in high school. There were just so many like pathways that, you had to maneuver.
Yeah.
There was so much peer pressure.
Right.
There were all these, there were all these things that could get you in trouble or in jail or even
For
killed in
sure.
high school. Drugs, sex, diseases, alcohol, violence. I mean, it was just
Was there
really
a lot of
odd.
violence at your high school?
There was,
What
yeah.
kind of a
I
neighborhood
went
did you
to,
grow up in?
so it's interesting. I started off at a fairly nice high school, not in the neighborhood that I grew up in, because I wanted to play
Oh,
basketball
uh-huh.
for one of the top level schools in the state. The high school was called Marcos Deniza. So that's where I went my freshman year. And though there wasn't a lot of violence there, it did have its fair share of racism.
Mm.
And there actually, I don't know why, but there were several suicides in my freshman year.
What?
Yeah, it was
How
crazy.
many?
At least 3, I
Oh
believe.
my
So
goodness.
this is 1996. So
Oh.
yeah, there were suicides. There were several like car accidents
Oh.
on the main street right in front of the high school students. And
That's
it was crazy. But then I
crazy.
transferred closer to where I live just because. I mean, it was taking me like 2 hours to catch the city bus. I was
Uh,
taking like 3 city buses to get there, and I would get home at like 9, 10 o'clock at night after
oh
practice
my
and have to
gosh.
be up at 5 to catch the 3 or 4 buses to get there. It was exhausting. So
Because you were not
after
getting
my
a ride from anybody.
no, exactly.
Dad
Not
wasn't
not that
offering to give you a
far.
ride to school.
And no, he was not. And mom
Jerk.
couldn't because at school or at work. So yeah, it was up to me. And so
Wow.
I made the one of the main reasons why I went there. One was basketball, but also I didn't want to be in. I didn't want to go to the high school nearby because I had heard the stories about fighting and riots
Oh,
and drugs and all those things, and I didn't want to be around that. I'm kind of a nerd. I'm kind of a square. At least I'd like to think of myself
you're a
as. And
mellow dude.
I was.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I'm a peace and harmony kind of guy. I'm a lover, not a fighter type. And
Yeah,
so
you're a weed
I didn't want
smoker. You
to be
don't
part of
fight.
that. Right. Yeah. It's all peace and love, man.
Right.
And
You a hippie.
but yeah, exactly. But I had to, I had to I had to do it because I just couldn't take the travel issues anymore.
Yeah.
And so I went, and I think like my first day there, it was like something like right out of a movie. There was like a riot, and SWAT teams on campus, and I mean there were blacks against Mexicans and kids throwing garbage cans and fighting. And I mean
What?
it freaked me out. I was like, what did I sign up for? Right. But, I was there, and it was pretty crazy. But that experience, I saw all the issues that, students and my friends were going through. And, that stuff resonated with me even after high school was over. And, not to mention I met my wife there. And so all wasn't bad. But I say all that to say that that experience, I wanted to encourage and support the youth and the kids from the community that went to the church. And so I heard a voice in my head one day when I was there that was like, you need to be a part of this. You need to be a part of this. And so I knew, though, I heard a voice in my head one day when I was there that was like, you need to be a part of this. You need to be a part of this. And so I you're not going to be effective in being a mentor and an inspiration and motivation to these young people unless you deal with some issues in your life. I heard a voice tell me that. And then I had a guy, I kid you not, I had a guy walk up to me that was like the facilitator for Celebrate Recovery, which I hadn't heard of at the time. And he asked me, he's like, hey, you should come to Celebrate Recovery on Tuesdays. And I'm like,
Why?
okay. Yeah. I was like, okay. And he's like, just come. And he became my mentor shortly after that. And I did start going to what I didn't know at the time was a recovery group.
Oh,
But
interesting. He saw right through your
right.
shenanigans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
It was
amazing.
crazy.
Did he later then tell you that he could tell you were high?
No, he didn't. Like,
No?
no, I guess I've been fortunate that either I don't,
What is up with
I
these
don't get
codependent
outside,
people?
or them, yeah, not wanting to tell me. I've never had anybody call me out on it. I guess I've been fortunate.
Well, you're tall and scary, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so he pulls you into Celebrate Recovery, and you start getting your act together. Now, I know very little about, so I'm 12-step oriented. So can you break it down for me, like how Celebrate Recovery works?
Absolutely. So Celebrate Recovery, it's a Christ-centered program. It's all founded on like biblical truth.
Okay.
Celebrate Recovery, like AA, it is a 12-step program.
Oh, it is.
Yes, it is a 12-step program. It has 12 steps.
Okay.
And they are biblically based 12 steps. And if you put them side by side to your AA 12 steps, they are very, very similar. I guess the biggest difference is that these have a biblical foundation behind them. There are also 8 principles in Celebrate Recovery as well, and those are based off of the Beatitudes, which you can find in Matthew. That's where Jesus has a conversation where he talks about a number of different things, and they are very, very similar. You would be surprised how much in common Celebrate Recovery, or CR as we call it, have with AA 12 steps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One major difference is that it's not limited to alcohol or drugs. Celebrate Recovery has no limits and no boundaries to what hurt, habit, hang up, addiction issue of life you're dealing with. So it can be, a drug addiction. It could be a sex addiction. It could be a food addiction. It can be codependency. It could be unforgiveness. There's no limit to what issue or addiction you have that Celebrate Recovery doesn't have a place for you.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because we've all heard about all the different 12-step groups. I even heard recently, and I had never heard this, but last Saturday, a newcomer girl told me that she went to a church to go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and she discovered something called RA, Racist Anonymous, people who have decided that they're racist and they don't want to be. Bless their hearts. I had never heard of such a thing. Have you?
No.
Is my head in the sand? Listen, that's not even in my realm of issues, right? So I'm happy for them, but wow, I was like, I love this idea that CR covers all addictions, mostly because even in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they say that alcohol is but a symptom of a deeper problem, right? And the 12 steps are designed to get you to root causes and conditions, which has nothing to do with alcohol.
Absolutely, yeah. And you said it right. It is. It's the fruit of a root, a seed that was planted long before. It's just the result of the issues of life. And I think that's another reason why with Celebrate Recovery it's more broad as far as the description, as far as it not being just addictions, but it could be hurts, like, again, unforgiveness, a habit, right? Like, smoking cigarettes or smoking marijuana, a hang up. It can be, it's very broad. And I think for me, it helped me to realize that there can be a challenge or an issue in your life, and it's not limited to drugs and alcohol.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's so funny because, I'm 12-step oriented. So You hear people talking in meetings a lot about playing whack-a-mole, right? Like your character defects pop up, and if you don't deal with the root cause of whatever it is that's eating at you, we may not be doing drugs or drinking alcohol anymore, but there's certainly I remember when I first got sober, they told me to watch out for switching addictions. The whole, like, you could listen, I wish I could have exercised or worked too much, because then I would have been in great shape with a bunch of money, but that was not my get down. The only thing I do in moderation is recovery and exercise, it seems like. But
no, I get it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense that they. So let me ask you this though: if you go to, what is the form? First of all, what is the format of a Celebrate Recovery meeting like?
Sure. That's a really good question. Normally, they start off with what we call fellowship, and it's kind of a meet and greet where, everyone is basically coming in to wherever you're having it at. I mean, it can be, a lot of times it's held at a church, but sometimes it's not. It's held at, youth centers or community centers. I mean, you can pretty much hold it anywhere, even at someone's home for that matter. And we'll do a meet and greet. And then, at least where I go, we start off with an introduction and a welcome to first-time visitors. It's really important that if someone's there and it's their first time, you make them feel comfortable. You make them feel welcome and invited, and no pressure, of course. Right. And then we'll do a couple songs that.
Oh, they're singing?
They're singing. Yeah, there's praise and worship. So there's usually a couple of songs.
Okay.
And they usually have something to do with, victory or freedom, and, breaking free from, the issues of life or salvation and things of that nature, healing and restoration. And then we go through the 12 steps. And so we all stand up and we have them on a screen, and we all read the 12 steps and or the 8 principles to celebrate recovery. And we'll have a big group lesson where everybody is, in the same building together, and we'll either watch a testimony from someone that has gone through all 12 of the steps, or we'll have a speaker that will actually talk about one of the steps as they're broken down into lessons. And then after that, we'll break up into groups. There are groups for females only. There are groups for males only. And then we have a group for teenagers, one for male teenagers, one for female teenagers. So very similar to AA, you will never see male and female in the same share group. They are all separate, and male and female.
I really like that idea.
Yes, for many reasons, I'm sure
Although, yeah, many reasons. But there's no co-ed meetings?
There are not. In Celebrate Recovery, there are no co-ed meetings. And one reason for that, and I guess the one that sticks out to me, is, let's just say, for example, someone shares something very personal in that group. Let's say, someone shares something very intimate, very personal in the group, and someone of the opposite sex has not quite made it to recovery, uses that as a manipulation ploy, you know what I mean, to take advantage of someone. And so that's not the only reason, but I know for me, that's the one that really sticks out as to why it's not healthy to mix the sexes in the groups, which is why we separate. Also, it's not a good idea to do family members in the same groups as well, too, because it can make it uncomfortable for one or the other to be open and honest and share, because they may have some issues with that person, right? So, for example, a mother and a daughter in the same group is probably not going to be a good idea. And so we also we try to separate family members as well, too, for obvious reasons.
Right, that's interesting. And do you, the Celebrate Recovery get, so like in 12-step meetings, people will be sent there by the court system.
Yes.
Do you guys get people?
We do.
Really?
Yes,
do?
Adults and youth are sent to Celebrate Recovery. So we have several regular people that come, and it's part of their recovery or their legal responsibilities for whatever their issues are. Men and women that are part of group homes, sometimes even whole group homes, come to meetings as well too.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. It's interesting though. I attend a lot of meetings that are mixed. I do love the women's meetings because you can be more vulnerable. I think, just my personal opinion, I'm not speaking for anyone, but I tell you though, I get so much from the men too though. There's so many men who have really amazing recovery, people that are very charismatic, that carry such a powerful message. I feel like my recovery would be lacking had I not had their perspective and their wisdom. And, I think I wonder if the women, and vice versa, right? There's a lot of women in my community who have very powerful messages that benefit the men as well. Is there any, do you feel like you're missing out on anything?
Use a word that I was thinking of as well, and it's perspective. And I think it's possible. However, at least at the group that I attend, we watch these testimonies. And we watch those in the big group, and those testimonies are, men and women. So even though there is no official mixed open share group, which by the way, we also, when we break up into groups, there's two different types of groups. There's your open share group where it's exactly what it sounds like. It's more general, and it's for more so for first time comers or those that are just kind of getting comfortable. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just an open share of right.
No
exactly.
format or topic. Is there a topic?
It's typically based off of either the testimony that we watched or the lesson that was taught in the big group, and that'll be kind of the foundation for the conversation. But then there is the more structured 12-step groups where you're actually walking through each one of the 12 steps in a very process-oriented manner. I believe it's on the 5th step. That's when you do your inventory. And this is where you begin to outline the people that have hurt you in your past or in your life, and the people that you have hurt in your past and your life. And you begin to start putting together a plan of, asking for forgiveness and, accepting forgiveness, as well as writing your personal testimony, where you essentially tell your story in front of the big group of your life and the struggles and the addictions that you've had, and the how they've affected your life, and the transformation, the recovery that has taken place through walking through the 12 steps of CR.
I have a question. So, and I try not to say AA, but anyway, and so step 4 in Alcoholics Anonymous is about writing the inventory, and then step 5 is sharing it with someone else. So are you saying that people are basically sharing they're doing their 5th step at group level?
Yes, as far as sharing it, yes. And in CR,
Really?
the 4th step says we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And so that's where you begin that process of, exactly, that's the writing part. And then it's later on in step 8, you make a list of all the persons that you've harmed and, become willing to make amends to them all. And then at the end of it all, ultimately, you give your testimony, and you're not obligated. We don't make anyone give their testimony, but typically, once you've made it through the 12 steps, you cannot wait. You're so excited. You can't wait to share your story and the transformation that's taken place as a result of it.
So people are not sharing as they're going through the process. The sharing doesn't happen.
Oh no! In
done.
your 12-step group, absolutely yes. So yes. So and again, it's very structured. There are study guides and booklets for going through the 12-step process.
And you're not doing it one-on-one, like with a sponsor. You've used the word mentor, which sounds like the equivalent to a sponsor. Is that a fair
actually,
statement,
in
or?
Celebrate Recovery, you have both what are called sponsors and accountability partners. And so a sponsor, for example, would be someone that has already completed the 12 steps. And yes, they are in a lot of ways like a mentor. They've been through the experience. They're there to hold you accountable, make sure you're following your steps. There's someone that you can go to if you're on the brink of a relapse or you have relapsed and you need some help getting things back together. And an accountability partner is someone that is on the same level as you are. And so you guys kind of hold each other accountable, whereas the sponsor is more like a coach, and accountability partner is kind of like a player on the same team as you.
Okay. Oh, I like that.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
have another
Ask away.
question for you. I'll have many. You mentioned relapse. So in Celebrate Recovery, if somebody relapses, do you start them over at step one again?
Yeah. In most cases, yes. It kind of depends
Okay.
on circumstances, severity of the relapse, what it was a relapse on. But if they're going through the 12 steps, yes, it's best to have them start from the beginning.
Just start over. So because Celebrate Recovery covers so many things, I would imagine that there's some gray area. So does it just depend on the person and their mentor to decide, okay, I think I should start over? That feels like a relapse that warrants starting over from the beginning. Like, how is that decision process?
So most Celebrate
down?
Recovery groups that I'm familiar with, they have a team of individuals that are facilitators, and there's also a director over the Celebrate Recovery group. And so the leadership will come together, and I know where I'm a facilitator for the youth, we have every month, we have a leadership meeting where we talk about what challenges we may be facing in our groups, issues like somebody relapsing and what the best next steps are and how to handle that. There are a few rules, or I should call them guidelines, that we go over at the beginning of each of our groups. And, one in particular is that, what's shared in the group stays in the group. The exception is if someone threatens to hurt themselves or someone else. In a situation like that, that is brought to the leadership of that Celebrate Recovery group. And, from there, we identify what the next best steps are. So it's not, it's a democracy, not a dictatorship. Right. Yeah. And, we collaborate, and we work out what we believe to be the best solution for the group and for the person.
And is that in the presence of the person, or the discussion is happening without that person being present?
That typically happens just within the leadership. And however, there are circumstances where the person can be brought in to have a conversation with their facilitator and the director. This way, they all understand what next steps are, and there's full disclosure between the individuals that are involved.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like what I'm familiar with as a group.
Exactly.
Type
Yes.
Of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Oh, that's fascinating. I guess there's a few ways. So what happens when someone decides, I can't hack it, and they don't come back? I mean, is there a follow-up, or you just turn them loose and let them come back when they're ready?
That's
I guess it just...
it's I know it's cliche, but it takes a village. So that's where the sponsors and the accountability partners come into play. Part of their responsibility, especially for a sponsor to someone, is to be in contact with them, to find out what's going on, why, what happened, what's motivating you to not want to come back or demotivating you from coming. So the sponsors, the accountability partners, even the directors will absolutely reach out to individuals that we notice haven't been in a few weeks, or have made it clear they don't want to come for whatever reason. So absolutely, that's part of the role of an accountability partner and a sponsor, is to stay in contact with those that are coming and have in common. Try to do what you can to encourage them to come back.
I have mixed feelings about that, because with some people, I tend to sponsor a lot of women, but I'm sort of like, I have a little speech when I agree to sponsor someone, and part of it is I will absolutely meet you at your level of intensity, but I will not carry you. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have the time or the energy to try to talk you into something you don't want to do.
I agree with you 100%.
But it breaks my heart, and I'm torn sometimes, because I'll be at a meeting and I'll hear somebody who has come back and they say, oh, so and so wouldn't let me go. They hounded me, and we all kind of giggle about it. I'm so grateful that they stuck by me and they could see through my BS, and I'm, they're grateful, right? And so part of me is like, oh, well, maybe I should be a little more aggressive, but it's really a tough call to, you can't make somebody get clean and sober.
No, you can't want it more
right?
than they. You reminded me of a situation where when I first got in, I was like super on fire for saving youth, and I was
Yeah.
mentoring a group of like troubled teenage boys. Like they all had issues where they had been locked up at some point in time, and some multiple times, and they
Oh,
were coming to group. That was part of their responsibility, and I was hell bent on I'm going to save these kids. I'm going to turn them around. And
yeah.
I was just putting so much into them. All three of them, they all ended up, either running away from home or getting in trouble and getting locked up. And I felt terrible, and I felt so responsible. Mind you, this is early in, and
Yeah.
I learned a lesson from the director at the time, and they told me something very simple but very profound. They said, "Support, don't fix."
Support them,
Yes.
don't fix it. Yeah, because you know what? I have done. Here's where I know I'm crossing the line. When I lose my peace, that means I'm taking an
Yeah.
appropriate responsibility for someone
Yeah.
else, and I got to reel it
Absolutely.
in
I agree. Hmm.
whenever I lose my
And when
peace.
I
Yeah.
always ask myself the question, do I want their recovery more than they want their recovery? And if the answer is yes, then I've crossed the boundary of, what's under
Cross
my
the
control.
boundary.
And I'm a huge Wayne Dyer fan, and I know,
Oh, love
rest his
him.
soul, but he said something years ago.
Such a
I know,
loss.
right? But he said something years ago that has stuck with me, and I think it's one of the things that keeps me very level set. And he said, if you can control the situation, there's nothing to worry about because you can control the situation. If you can't control the situation, there's nothing to worry about because you can't control the situation. So either way, whether you can or you can't control the situation, there's nothing to worry about. And I take that, and I take the support, don't fix, and I kind of bounce where I'm at with this person off of those two things. And if it seems like I'm crossing those two boundaries, I know I need to take a step back and let them do their own thing and figure it out, on their own. And
Yeah.
I have a lot more peace because of that, because I was driving myself, up a wall, trying to, make them understand and get it. And it just wasn't working.
Yeah, and I feel like I have to realize that they have their own God and their own process, and at the end of the day, I really don't know what's right for anybody.
Exactly.
I really don't. And I don't know what their process is about. Some people need to hit bottom harder than others. From my perspective, what do I know? People have to learn how to make their own decisions and make their own mistakes. And who am I to tell somebody what they should or shouldn't be doing? That sort of puts me in a position of, it's for me, it's too close to messing around with pride and
Absolutely, it
ego.
is. Yeah. I mean, if you
Yeah.
reminded me of another saying that we have, and when we are in like control issue mode, we have to say, "I'm
Uh-huh.
not God," and that's what that really is. Is when you're trying to
Yeah.
make someone, yeah, you really
Trying
are
to
trying
play
to play
God.
God. And the other thing that I always think about is I can barely manage to control myself. How could I possibly control and make somebody else do something, right? It's like I can't fix
I know,
me.
right? It's like you're in
How am
my
I going
head
to
right
fix
now.
somebody else if
Yeah.
I can't fix
Yeah.
myself?
And you know what? I love that thought, because you know where else that applies for me is in forgiveness. When I'm working on my character defects, I like to do this process called if you spot it,
Mm,
you got it, right? And so the process, I'll just, loosely, is that if typically this happens in some kind of relationship, whether it's a family relationship or a work relationship or a friendship, where something comes up, right? And I feel the urge to start judging this person, I'll go ahead and assign the labels. That person's selfish, they're self seeking, they're attention seeking, they're self pity, whatever it is, right? And I'll go ahead and assign the labels. And the hard part is to then say, okay, where am I those things? Where do I have those characteristics? And it's a very like pride swallowing siege sometimes, because my pride and ego and all my defensiveness is, wants to deny that I have those character defects. But I've learned that people are just mirrors, right? They're reflecting back to you what you love or don't love about yourself. And when I'm in conflict with somebody, if I can just ask God for help and look at those character defects, what are they in essence? It's the seven deadly sins, right? Where if I can just sit with it and pray about it over time, maybe like over a week or 2 weeks, it will be revealed to me where I am displaying those same character defects. And when I can get to the place of empathy for that person, like, you know what, I'm wrestling with this same exact character defect, maybe at a different degree, or maybe in a slightly different scenario, but in the essence, it's all about selfishness, self-centeredness, or you know what I'm saying? Like all those seven deadly sins. I go back to that place that you just mentioned. It's like, I am really doing my best to be a good person and address these character defects, and it's hard, and I'm trying. Right? What about these people who have no program, no support, no Celebrate Recovery? How do they get by in life? It's like they have nothing. It's like I have all this love and support, and I'm still
Yeah,
struggling.
it is heartbreaking, and especially for me when I see teenagers that are just going through it. I mean, and a lot of the reasons why they are where they are, some of them is not their fault. They didn't choose to be born in a broken home, or to be born to parents that have drug and alcohol addictions, and they're
Are neglectful,
right. And so
abusive. Yeah.
it can be, and I think that's one of the reasons why you can sometimes cross that border, because you're going beyond empathy, and you just want to help some of these people, because like you said, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to help themselves. They're not aware of, they don't know about reflection on, what you're going through, and the root causes of it, like someone that has maybe gone through a recovery group or has been a leader and understands the process of healing and restoration and transformation. And so, yeah, it's definitely it's tough. It can be very tough.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have to practice a lot of self-care and be very present and have that mindfulness in the moment to know when you're crossing the boundaries. But I think with kids, that must be so
Absolutely. No,
hard
you
because
hit
they're
it right
just
on the head.
kids.
Like, I cannot be effective with them if I'm not taking care of myself. I just can't, and I mean, more important than CR for me was to have a positive impact and be a role model for young adults, particularly male, young adults. I couldn't do that in the state that I was in before Celebrate Recovery, before I
Right, right,
admitted that
yeah.
I had some serious, problems, and that my life was out of control, and that it was unmanageable. And that's part of the 12 steps, that there were issues in my past that were, really having an impact on me in the present, and would continue to if I didn't,
Congratulations.
begin to address them in a, in a healthy, systematic, and I think for me, a biblical way. you know and I say all that to, again, tie the bow on my whole me and my dad relationship. So I'm in Celebrate Recovery, and I'm not a leader at this
Wow.
time. I'm coming, and I go every week, and I've been going since 2008 to Celebrate Recovery. Thank you. I think it was around 2012 or
Oh,
2013, I finally finished the 12
right.
steps. Like, I had gone all the way through the 12 steps. I had written my testimony about my life story, and I told my story in front of the whole church. And I was sobbing and crying. There was snot running down my nose. But I tell you what, when I finished, the weight and
Of
the burden
course.
that was lifted off of me was unbelievable. And I really and truly, I felt a weight, a physical, spiritual, emotional, relational
Forgiving.
weight lifted off of me. And
Really?
I felt free. I felt different. I felt more open and honest, transparent, and just comfortable in who I was. I still had, and I still to this day have character defects.
What?
But that process was
Michael,
very
are
freeing.
you free of that, all that resentment?
One of the hardest things
Wow.
about that process
That is a
was
miracle.
forgiving my dad, which I did. That was the hardest one. I did. I genuinely and sincerely forgave him for everything that he did.
Wow.
And today we have a healthy relationship with one another.
Really?
I'm not
sure
joking.
he's a
Yeah.
different person too now, right?
I am. I absolutely am. I don't think about it. I don't hold
Did
it
he-
against him. He
did
was
he ever
over
get
my
any
house
help?
for my son's birthday, actually, in February. He was over here for the party, and
Oh.
you know,
You don't think you'll ever sit him
he lives
down
like
and ask
10
him
minutes
what
down the
happened to
street from
him?
me. And so, we talk on the phone. He texts me all the time. He texts my wife. He's
feel,
very different.
Yeah,
He's
you just feel at peace.
he's
you
the
just
same
feel
guy,
at
but he's
peace
so
with it, and you
different.
don't need to know.
He's so much cooler now. And I don't know what happened to him. I don't know. Again, his life is still a mystery to me. Yeah.
Of
And
course. Yeah.
you know what? I never thought about it, but it's not impossible. It could definitely happen.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like what you're talking about is just really true.
Yeah,
Acceptance.
I think that's what it's.
You
Part
know.
of me, I can sense in him. He knows what
Courage
he
to change the
did.
things he's
I can
doing.
sense the disappointment in himself, and for me, it's just like I can handle it, but I don't need it to be free. If that makes any sense. Yeah. I accept the things I can't. It's serenity prayer. I accept the things I cannot change.
You don't play ball with Dad.
I change the things that I can. Yeah, I've been able to do that with him, and that wouldn't have been possible without Celebrate Recovery. There's no way that I would have been able to let go of, all those things that happened in my youth, and but I can say now that I have, and I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like we're playing catch with each other, or, we're not reliving. Yeah, we're not reliving things that we didn't get to do as father and son when I was,
Absolutely. And as long as you have
in
peace,
high school, living at home. But again, we have a
that's
healthy
really what
dialogue with one
matters.
another. He's come over to the house and hung out and, played with his grandkids, and, we've had talks, and, I've helped him out with, a few things
that's
here
really
and there.
beautiful.
And so,
I've learned so much about Celebrate
I think those are
Recovery.
signs of
Thank you so much for
true
sharing
forgiveness
that.
and acceptance of.
We're coming up on our time, and I have so many. We might have to do. You know what I might do is go to a Celebrate Recovery meeting, and then maybe we'll do a round 2, and I can ask you some more questions. Because I bet if I went, I know I got to check it out now. I'm gonna go to all the things. There are many ways to get sober. There's I think it's called Refuge. I want to say Refugee Recovery. I don't think that's it. It's like Refuge Recovery. There's so many different programs
You should.
out there, but and I want to learn about all of them. I'm sure that they all have things about them that different tools to help people recovery, and I'm all about the solution. So I'll go to a meeting and check it out. We'll have to do round 2, but I usually wrap up the podcast with, since it's ODAT, meaning one day at a time. And I suspect I know the answer to this question, but do you have like a daily or weekly routine that you follow that helps you stay sober?
You know what? I am a man of routine, and my daily, kind of rituals or routine, so to speak, it does keep me sane. So, like you and I were talking before the interview, I'm one of those crazy people that whose alarm goes at 3 a.m. in the morning every day, even on the weekends. Yeah,
3
and
a.m. I think that's a certain kind of sickness.
But let me tell you, I start my day. I get up, and I get up at 3, and I go to the gym, and the gym is, for me, it's physical and mental exercise and emotional exercise. Help me. It really de-stresses me for the day, actually. And so I go to the gym, I come back home, take a shower, I pray, meditate, I read a book I read a chapter of a book, whatever book I'm reading. I'm always reading a book. nonstop. I make myself breakfast, and then I get dressed for work. And on my way to work, I'm in the car. I don't listen to the radio. I listen to podcasts on, if it's not sales, it's something that has to do with, well-being or spirituality, something of that nature. And that process, before I get into the office, I'm like ready and set to go. My mind is focused. I have my intention set for the day. And for me, that routine, having a structured day, keeps me from, slipping and sliding. It's when I don't have an organized structure that it's easy to, backslide into things like obsessive overeating. I know we didn't talk about present issues for me, but obsessive compulsive overeating is something that I've struggled with. Obviously, I've talked about codependency and fear of rejection and fear of failure. So to help neutralize those things, I say affirmation, prayers. I talk about what I want, not what I don't want. I speak, about those things, and those are all just everything that I do. There are ways to keep me in the state of mind for optimal performance. To be the person that I aspire to be, and I believe that God has purposed me to be. And I can always tell the difference when I don't follow my normal routine, or if something happens unexpectedly that throws me off my routine. I can always kind of tell that things are a little bit different. So that's my process.
Yeah, I love it. You and I are a lot alike. I have lots of books.
They're everywhere.
I'm always knee deep in books. Always trying to feed my. And there's so much good information out there. I mean, I have a resource list on the ODAT Chat podcast page, just because there is so much good information out there, and my mind wants to chew on the negative stuff, and my mind left to its own devices will start thinking about negative things. So I always like to feed my brain something positive for it to chew on, instead of defaulting to something negative. So yeah, I totally get it. Good deal. Well, listen, Michael, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for educating me on Celebrate Recovery, and I'll have to go check out a meeting and report back.
Please do. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I really can't. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, listen, you have a great night. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, Arlene. Have a good night, too. See you later.
Okay, too. Bye-bye. One last thing before you go, if you enjoyed the podcast today, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher and leave a review. And if you'd like to make a donation to the podcast and help me keep the lights on, you can do so by visiting odatchat.com. There's a donation button or membership button on the right-hand side. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.